My name is Angela Calcagno-Spashin. I am also class of 1996 here at IC Catholic Prep. I've lived in Elmhurst for just about my whole life. I attended Immaculate Conception Grade School, IC Catholic Prep, and then I went on to college at St. Mary's College in Indiana, where I majored in history and also had a minor in secondary education. A little bit later on, I went for my master's in reading from Benedictine University, so I'm a certified K-12 reading specialist. I also am an endorsed special education teacher K-12. In the early part of my career, I taught at a local public high school. Then I stayed home for just a bit with my sons and tutored privately. I returned to IC Catholic Prep in 2012, and this is my 9th year here, but my 16th year overall as a teacher. I was the social studies department chair for a bulk of my career here at IC, and most recently, I am director of the Farrelly program, and I still teach a bit of social studies classes. As director of the Farrelly program, I serve as the case manager for students with service plans or documented learning needs, and my role is to assist them with developing their executive functioning skills, cultivating their study skills, utilizing their accommodations, while also reviewing academic material with them as needed. And I would also say I serve as a bit of an instructional special education coach for our faculty to assist them with the best means to maximize student potential.
Awesome. There's so much there. And I just love your background because those credentials are so vast and really just your experiences have led you all the way to this moment, which is really what's most exciting because we have this amazing Farrelly program. So for the families who don't know what the Farrelly program is, why don't you tell us what that is and how that came about?
Absolutely. So since 1978, the Catholic Church has really been promoting all Catholic schools to become more inclusive. Obviously, that wouldn't happen overnight, but we're really getting there, and you'll be seeing that at neighboring grade schools as well. So that is kind of the foundation of the program, is inclusion through Catholic doctrine. But I also want to mention that the program is named after Sister Megan Farrelly, who was our assistant principal for a number of years. She was tirelessly working with our students that needed extra assistance. And so when we put this program together, it's very much so with her heart and soul in mind. And what this program looks like is students would have a daily study hall with me in a very small group setting where they can get the assistance they need individualized to meet their needs.
And really that idea of just opening up our doors to Catholic education for all learners, right?
Absolutely.
You know, not just one level, but all learners. And you just jumped in feet first and couldn't be more grateful for you to be able to use your talents and your gifts in those areas so that our students see that additional success and growth, right?
Absolutely.
So you spoke a little bit about what that daily experience might look like, but walk us through kind of day-to-day for a student that might come to us with an identified need or documented IEP or 504 plan. Talk about what that day-to-day experience looks like for those kids.
Absolutely. So they're going to come down to a study hall room with me. It is a smaller setting. And I would kind of describe it more as a guided study, if that makes sense. So it's not that the students are off on their own working. They may work individually, but they may need assistance as well. So class begins with prayer, and then we shift into me checking their daily planners. And this is where they would note all of their daily assignments as well as upcoming quizzes and tests. So we're very much into routine. Then they have a digital chart they log into. And what the students are going to note is what their academic focus is that day. Perhaps they're finishing Spanish workbook pages. Perhaps they're starting to study for a world history quiz, whatever that might be. I also check in with them at that time and say, what can I help you with? And we kind of go from there. So the students are going to consistently, not just with me, but with all of the faculty, be working on their self-advocacy. And the students also are very much so encouraged to send emails, to book appointments with specific teachers as needed, and to check on anything that they may need to check on academically. Because as they go further in their education onto college and whatnot, they really need to be their own best advocate. So that, I would say, is quite a purpose and a function of the program. In terms of other supports we do have a subscription to Learning Ally, which has just about every textbook and novel you can imagine on audio. So each Farrelly program student would have their own account, and I usually set them up with the textbooks and novels they need, but they can also add to that account as needed. So they have the permission to do that. Mom and dad also have their account information as well. So audiobooks are a great way to increase student comprehension if there's a reading need. And that's just another great support that we like to provide here at IC Catholic Prep.
Again, we call those like those wraparound supports, like that wrapped blanket, right? That warmth that we just provide for our kids and those kiddos who just need extra support somewhere, right? But I think that self-advocacy piece is so important, student to student. I mean, for every student, that is so important.
Yeah, it's critical. And if you think about it, adults need to self-advocate. So the
Right.
sooner that we teach this to our young people, regardless of them being in Farrelly program or not, the more successful they're going to be as they further their education, as well as in their careers and communities.
I love it. I love it. So talk to me just briefly about, as an educator, as a parent, as a community member, what do you think you personally feel is the best part about having a program like the Farrelly program is at IC Catholic Prep?
I would say the best part is that it makes our school more inclusive of all students with learning differences. And as a result, it's going to improve our school culture as a whole, while also following that Catholic doctrine of inclusion. Now, for many, many years, parents had a only choice, only public education if your child needed services. So now we're providing an alternate choice that perhaps they didn't even think they had. And I think that is really integral to Catholicism, is being supportive of one another regardless of differences. So as a whole, the school culture is going to improve not just here on our physical Cottage Hill grounds, but our community as well.
Absolutely. I think that's awesome and couldn't have said it better myself. Really just that importance of that Catholic doctrine, but the idea of culture and community, right? I love
Absolutely.
it. Culture and community, they have to go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
So then let's say I'm a parent, I have a student who's looking at attending IC. I have a documented IEP on
Mm-hmm.
file, and I'm looking to see if IC can service my student with those documented needs. What's the best advice we could give our parents in that arena?
Oh, that's fantastic question. And I myself have, my older son has an IEP, so I completely understand any concerns parents have. And I like to mention that so that they know I get it. I've been there before and I understand you, and I am sensitive to whatever concerns you may possibly have. My best advice for the parents looking at us is to definitely reach out to us as soon as possible so that we can start communicating and seeing if we are a good fit for your child, because it works both ways, right? We want to be a good fit for you, and we want to make sure that we can meet all of your child's needs. Therefore, the best way that we can respond and let you know if we can meet their needs appropriately would be for you to share their current documentation with us. Of course, all materials remain confidential, but by sharing those materials, it allows us to be able to give you precise answers to the questions and concerns you may have. And secondly, it also would allow Ms. Kanzia to be able to plan and provide appropriate accommodations for your child at our entrance exam. So I think, reaching out early allows us to start that relationship and start communicating and making sure that everyone feels very much so a part of the process. And one quick thing to add is, your student may have documented learning needs, but may not need the supports at Farrelly program, but in
Right.
some ways could still get them. So if your son or daughter needs some supports, but not the supports we provide in Farrelly program, we would still be there. For instance, I do have some students that would use my classroom for extended time on an assessment. So they may be taking the assessment in their regular classroom, but come down here to finish it, or perhaps they just need an alternate setting. So there's some different options there that would ebb and flow as well. We truly are a student-centered school. That is our culture. And what do I mean by that? As teachers, the way our brains are working, and administrators and every single person in the building, is what can we do to maximize the student's personal success? And that's exactly how we think. So if there's ever any obstacles, challenges, we don't see them as a negative. We see them as a way to improve upon ourselves and see, what can we do and how can we handle this?
Absolutely.
So we are very much so focused on our students and growing them as learners and eventually community members.